So your trial jury, when you're accused of having an unregistered or unlawful National Firearms Act item, is not even told that you were told it was legal when you had it. We are the Arms Attorneys. Today we're talking about, let's call them NFA Lite items, Diet National Firearm Act items, patent pending. But we're going to talk about what's going on. We've had lots of issues lately with FRTs, arm braces, bump stocks, why the government is doing this to you, what you should look out for, and how you can be a savvy consumer. But before we get started, show your support for the Second Amendment by hitting the like button.
And today's video is brought to you by our friends over at Aura. Anyone can find anything on the internet, including your full legal name, your personal email, your home address, phone number, and even your relatives. I tried it out for myself. I Googled one of my sister's phone numbers and immediately found her home address. And that's kind of scary because she's a former prosecutor and her address is hidden by law. So this information is accessible because of data brokers who profit by selling your information to robocallers, telemarketers, spammers, and anyone else that wants to learn more about you. That's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura.
Aura will identify data brokers that are exposing your information and automatically submit opt-out requests on your behalf. They'll even opt you out of junk mail and telemarketing lists. You can use our link, aura.com/armed attorneys, to try 2 weeks and see how many data brokers are sharing your information. It's also linked in our description, or scan the QR code. Aura also monitors your emails and passwords to see if they were involved in a data breach and exposed on the dark web, and gives you recommendations on what to do.
Aura's app also features a VPN, password manager, real-time credit and identity theft monitoring, internet parental controls, and protects your devices from malware. Aura has almost every internet safety tool you'll ever need. It's all inside the app. Let Aura do the hard work for you and keep you safe online. If you sign up right now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial with our link.
You'll be shocked at how much of your private information Aura finds exposed over those 2 weeks. Go to aura.com/armed attorneys to start your free trial. It's also linked below in the description, or scan the QR code.
So what items are we talking about? We're talking about those items that, if they seem too good to be true, fill in the blank. So we've kind of seen this trend, and I want to say the first two ones that come to mind for me are solvent traps and bump stocks. Let's talk about the ATF just changing their mind arbitrarily and the actual real world impact that has on folks.
Yes. So you have something, you see it, it's marketed, everything looks good, legal, perfect. You spend your money on it, and then the ATF says, no, this is not for you. This is a National Firearms Act item. And in some cases, it is not remediable. And those are the two in which, of course, we've got others where there is no remedy. It's not like arm braces, right? Which affects many of us, but there is some quote unquote remedy to make yourself legal and lawful and to make the ATF happy. But we have these consumers who have purchased items like solvent traps, bump stocks, and anything that is a machine gun, which is a bump stock, a machine gun. No, but that doesn't stop the government from telling you that it is. And once the government tells you that it is, will they put you in prison for having one? Absolutely, they will. So what we've got is things like machine guns, which are unremediable, right? If it was not in existence and registered as of May 19th, 1986, you stuck. And solvent traps, which the remedy problem there was that they started saying that they were already completed.
Yeah. So, and I think this is a perfect illustration, and good preface. This isn't us saying this is the way we want the world. Obviously, we think all of this is arbitrary and capricious, but this is how the ATF is actually acting, and so we have to talk about it. But yeah, I'd say the big one that jumps out at me initially is the solvent traps, because what was happening, you saw these things marketed on Facebook, or you could go buy these at your local gun store. And what people were able to do for a period of time is they could, say, hey, ATF, I would like to manufacture my own suppressor.
Here's my Form 1.
Here's my Form 1. They would get their approval. They would finish out the solvent trap and make it and turn it into a suppressor. And everything was good to go. But then we see the ATF change its mind and say, hey, you know what? We are now considering these things completed suppressors. Therefore, we can't approve a Form 1 because you're not making it or you're not manufacturing it. It already is a suppressor.
And we're coming for it.
Yes.
So, yes, so we have these items. And again, I will reiterate, because the first comment on this video is going to be these so-called lawyers who think that the government should be allowed to tell us exactly what to do. No, we don't. However, like when my doctor says, Our guidance is that more than one drink a night for a woman is binge drinking. In my mind, I say, that sounds like a you problem, but I don't get mad at the doctor for telling me that. We are just telling you what is going to happen. It is by no means an endorsement of the ATF's behavior or, in fact, the existence of the ATF as a body.
Yeah, and we saw this flip-flop go on with bump stocks for a period of time. Those were completely unregulated, green light from the ATF. The same thing with arm braces. We have letters even of support from the ATF. They'd send these to the firearms inspection division, the people who would actually look at these things, and they would give them the thumbs up. And a lot of times they were marketed with these letters.
Yes, which should tell you how much these letters are worth. I mean, they are worth the paper they are printed on. And what we have seen in subsequent prosecutions is we have judges who are not admitting these letters as evidence at trial. So your trial jury, when you're accused of having an unregistered or unlawful National Firearms Act item, is not even told that you were told it was legal when you had it. So, yes, we have all of these items: solvent traps, bump stocks, FRTs, arm braces, ones that are less questionable to me, like if someone is 3D printing coat hangers or wall hooks and you look and it is very clearly wink and auto sear, you're going to have a huge problem and you're not going to get any benefit of the doubt on that.
No, and then you take it to an even level, a further level of obfuscation with like Matt Hoover and these cards. Those were clearly not machine guns.
No,
And this is the part of the frustrating part because we all agree those aren't machine
those are
guns.
not machine guns.
But
and yet,
Matt's in custody.
yes, if you see these items and you think to yourself, this looks like an NFA Lite item, but it's something that perhaps you have not heard a decision made on, like binary triggers, right? There is a new product I've seen marketed by S&T. It's called a shocker. It's like a double trigger. But if you see something and you think, could the ATF interpret this in a way where it could fall under the National Firearms Act, which is basically everything they want at this point until the courts rein them in, there are things that you just need to know before you start making purchases. There's some things we're going to tell you, don't buy them. Don't buy solvent traps. Don't buy coat hangers. Don't buy FRTs, right? If you see it marketed still, which you should see less and less, bad idea because the government's going to come take it away from you. But if it's something more like the binary trigger, right, where you think maybe you just need to be prepared for what options you have. And I think we talk in terms of best case scenarios and worst case scenarios, and then you make the decision. Again, these so-called lawyers, I know, but Richard, if I tell you that smoking is linked to lung cancer and you need to make a decision about whether or not you're going to smoke, I'm not trying to be,
You should be telling me thank you for smoking and no,
but this is where, so
no,
here we are.
and that's what it is. It's all about a calculated risk decision because some of these items are very, very expensive. And if you don't mind setting a couple $100 on fire, then it doesn't matter.
Fine.
But if it's gonna hurt you to possibly lose out on one of these items while it gets litigated, because that's the context that it comes up in most of the time is we have some kind of rulemaking process, then some kind of compliance period, and then ultimately, and we hope under the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin case and all these different standards we have floating around that the ATF gets reined in and justice prevails and we get to possess these items because they don't fall into these categories. But in the meantime, in that administrative confusion, in that risk of, your bacon being on the line and possibly being prosecuted, you're not going to talk to an attorney who says, just risk it. What is it? It's only 10 years in the federal penitentiary and a $250,000 fine. Psh, roll the dice.
No attorney's going to tell you that.
No, they're going to say, hey, this is the possible range of punishment, and you need to make a conscious and an informed decision about this.
Yes, and bear in mind that not everything is an arm brace, right? Not everything is remove it and wait if you don't want to submit your Form 1, right? Some things are machine guns. They're not, but they are hot lava the second the ATF decides that they are machine guns. So think of all those people who had bump stocks, all those people who subsequently destroyed bump stocks, and all those people who are living in the Fifth Circuit right now who are like, man, sure would be nice to have my bump stock back. But, here we are, right? So, best case scenario, you have found an item that's a wink, not an NFA item on the internet, and you are ready to purchase. Best case scenario, you have gotten yourself an item that is probably slightly or greatly less good than the actual NFA item you want, right?
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't disagree with anything that you said.
there we are. So, medium case scenario, Richard.
Yeah, the government comes and confiscates the item. I think we will see that happen a lot, and we're seeing that happen a lot with FRTs.
Mhm.
Ultimately, do we think that thing is a machine gun? Probably not under the technical definition. However, it is remarkably closer than the bump stock case. The bump stock case was kind of fabricated out of thin air. This is a combination of parts, and it's gonna be a much closer decision. But that's our medium case
Right.
scenario. You lose, you set the money on fire.
Right. Worst case scenario, you are criminally prosecuted and you wind up with your butt in a prison cell. Now, what does this all mean in the context of legalities? Because I know a lot of people are probably saying, isn't this an ex post facto law? Isn't it an unlawful taking? What are you lawyers going to do for me about all this stuff? And we can just tell you the arguments that the government is currently making that are currently succeeding, which is essentially these items were always illegal.
Yeah, I would say that is the winning argument right now.
That is the winning argument right now. That is how the government is getting away with this.
So, for example, we look at the bump stocks. Why are we winning the bump stock battle? Well, because the government, an administrative agency came in and tried to redefine something Congress expressly provided for. Where are we seeing, to Emily's exact point, where are we seeing the government winning? I will use solvent traps as an example. If they're arguing this falls under the current definition of a suppressor, therefore necessitating registration and a tax stamp paid, that's where the government seems to be winning.
Right. And so you've got government saying this was always a crime. So you do not get any of these benefits of getting to argue unlawful takings, ex post facto. And then you have you, little old you, against the whole government saying, but I didn't know. And ignorance of the law is not a legal defense. That sucks. I'm not saying it. I would love to go out and say, I had no idea cocaine was illegal. But that doesn't get me anywhere. Same thing here. Even in the face of, hey guys, I have this letter from you that says this isn't illegal. I was ignorant of the fact that this is illegal. Not even that is getting you anywhere in these cases. So you have to be extraordinarily cautious.
And I think the moral of this story is, a calculated and conscious a risk decision, right? Because again, back to Emily, not saying do this, not saying do this. It's just all comes down to how much risk are you willing to tolerate. Now, I think what's important, worth mentioning here, is the online purchase of a lot of these items. Now we see kind of that list that we went through earlier. The items that were purchased online, those are the people who were first contacted by the government.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think that that is worth pointing out. If you are making one of these risk calculations, you're buying what we'll call the light, NFA Lite, or borderline items, things that haven't been litigated and might be litigated in the future. Just know that that's where they start. They start with these purchases online and looking at social media, looking at people using these things, because that's really where the government starts their case. They have people who don't understand how firearms work. They say that's the same thing as a machine gun. That gets the ball rolling. And the internet is just a dangerous place.
Yes. So again, buy what you want by all means, right? We are definitely not telling you not to go out and buy that binary trigger. What we are telling you is that you should not be surprised if that's the next target. And even if the government ultimately ends up losing, which we very much hope that they do, I guarantee, and I know Richard feels the same way, we would love nothing more than for the entire NFA to crumble and for you get a machine gun, you get a machine gun, I
And
get a grenade launcher.
Battleship.
Right. Yes, exactly. That is. However, we just have to warn you about the current state of affairs. And no, you could be setting your couple $100s on fire, or at least putting it in a nice little, I don't know, gun safe savings account while things are litigated, because that takes years and years and years. So just be cautious and know why the government can currently do these things to you, not that we endorse or support it.
Yeah, but we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And as always, leave us a comment. What do you think about our advice? Do you hate it? Do you think that we should all just non-compliance and just go for it? But let us know. Until next time, we are the Armed Attorneys. All
Cocaine.
means. I know that. I'm never going to get...
You're never going to get your cocaine?
Never going to get my cocaine.